to get my brother to safety. I wish I was the one dead and that he is still alive.
For his mother, the unbearable state of not knowing, and perhaps she never will.
Bakr was the sweetest of all of us, smart and handsome. This is a test from God, but such a hard test. Can you imagine losing the most precious thing you have? I'll stay here until I find him.
In central Bodrum, the nationalities come together for shelter. Among them, a Pakistani couple. They sold their home to pay the smuggler, who's disappeared with their money. She is due to give birth in a week.
It took us 1 month to reach here, and the man ran away with our $2,000. We're stuck here, and we don't have any medical care for the delivery of the baby. All we want is to go to Europe for a better future for our children.
What a contrast now between the thousands of happy, relieved refugees arriving in Germany and those here at the start of their journey, daunted by the path ahead. Unless they can navigate the smugglers and the rough seas towards Greece, they may never actually make it. Their hopes and dreams of Europe will go unfulfilled. The many faces of the refugee crisis, united by their aim, but also by despair. Mark Lowen, BBC News, Bodrum.
The pilot of a British Airways plane bound for London has been praised for his quick response after an engine caught fire just before takeoff from Las Vegas. The aircraft was engulfed in flames and passengers and crew had to use emergency slides to escape. About a dozen of the 170 people on board needed medical treatment. Our correspondent John Brain reports.
Speedbird, Mayday, Speedbird 2276, request flight services.
British Airways flight number 2276 in flames on the runway at Las Vegas Airport.
Speedbird 2276 Heavy, we are evacuating on the runway. We have a fire, I repeat, we are evacuating.
Speedbird 2276 Heavy, roger.
The plane had been gathering speed for takeoff when it suddenly came to a shuddering halt. The 157 passengers on board quickly realised they were in danger.
People were terrified. There was a guy sitting on the left side of the plane next to the wing, and he's seen the flames, and his window had started melting as well. So they were obviously just trying to get away from that side of the plane. At the same time, the crew's trying to get everyone to remain in their seats, obviously, to stop the mass panic.
I was one of the first people off the plane, and so jumped down the slide, and I looked up, and the flames seemed to be about twice the height of the aircraft.
Everybody that got off before me, as soon as they hit the tarmac, they just sprinted because behind us are giant flames.
The passengers that were saying, there's a fire, and as soon as the crew heard passengers saying there was a fire, there was no hesitation from them whatsoever. The exit doors were open, they were literally in full swing. It was like clockwork for them.
More than a dozen people were hurt during the evacuation, most of them while sliding down the emergency chutes. However, none of the injuries are serious. With the passengers temporarily stranded in Las Vegas, BA is arranging alternative flights to London. It's understood the fire broke out in one of the aircraft's engines. An investigation will try to establish what caused it. For now, there's just relief that it happened while the plane was still on the ground rather than in the air. John Brain, BBC News.
Children born in the summer months could be allowed to start school later under new plans being proposed by the government. The Schools Minister Nick Gibb has written an open letter to parents, local authorities and head teachers in England, saying that he recognises that some parents feel they have to send their young children to school before they're ready. Here's our political correspondent, Chris Mason.
It's long been a cause for concern for some parents of children born in July and August. Their children will begin their schooling having just turned 4, but will be sitting alongside others celebrating their 5th birthdays as their first term in the classroom begins. So, what are the rules now? The school's admissions code requires authorities to provide a school for all children in the September following their 4th birthday. A child doesn't actually reach compulsory school age until the start of the school term following their 5th birthday.
It's business as usual for Her Majesty, carrying out official duties in Scotland with a message of thanks for people around the world.
Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception. But I thank you all, and the many others at home and overseas, for your touching messages of great kindness.
The United Kingdom marks the moment with flotillas and gun salutes.
And also coming up this hour, there's a mixed response across Europe to new plans for tackling the migrant crisis, as David Cameron says the UK must act with its head and its heart.
Mayday, Speedbird 20.
And a pilot is praised for his swift action after his plane loaded with passengers burst into flames before takeoff.
The Queen has today thanked people at home and across the world for their kind messages of support on this historic day, the day she becomes the longest reigning monarch in British history. She's been in Scotland and was accompanied by the Scottish First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon. David Cameron paid tributes in the House of Commons and other party leaders followed suit on a day that has been full of remarkable images of the Queen and Prince Philip as they travelled across Scotland. But a sombre moment for Her Majesty too. It marks the beginning of a reign because of the death of her father, King George VI, on February the 6th, 1952. This afternoon at about 5:30 will become that moment where history is made, and the Queen will also tonight be hosting a dinner at Balmoral, a private event also with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge in attendance. Our Royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell looks back at a remarkable day of history.
She evidently feels it's rather undignified to be seen to be celebrating the passing of a record set by her own great-great-grandmother, hence the request not to make a fuss. But there is no escaping the simple fact that today the reign of Elizabeth II exceeds that of Queen Victoria. And, true to form, the Queen was doing what was expected of her, breaking her Balmoral holiday to open a new railway line in the Scottish borders. At Edinburgh's Waverley station, she boarded a steam train, the Union of South Africa, specially brought in for the occasion. In a cloud of steam and smoke, it set off for the 40-mile journey along what is the longest new stretch of railway built in the United Kingdom for 100 years. And during the journey, perhaps even a monarch who dislikes a fuss may have reflected a little on a record-breaking reign.
Queen of this realm and of all her other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth.
It began, of course, in February 1952, when she returned to Britain as Queen after the death of her father, George VI.
I here present unto you Queen Elizabeth, your undoubted Queen.
Nearly 18 months later, she was crowned Queen of the United Kingdom in Westminster Abbey. At that service, in the coronation oath, she promised to serve her people. And across 63 years, 7 months and 2 days, that is what she's endeavoured to do, becoming the most travelled head of state in history. And a few months short of her 90th birthday, she is still fully engaged as head of state, dealing with state papers virtually every day. Those who've served her as Prime Minister say her record is a remarkable one.
I think her legacy is a constitutional monarchy that is secure through the next 3 generations, a Commonwealth that is knitted together because of her work, and a nation that instinctively, perhaps only subliminally, looks to the monarchy at times of difficulty.
Her journey today along the route of the new Borders Railway stopped at stations along the way. The Queen disembarked to greet people. Such a simple thing, really, timeless in a sense, but part of the backdrop that for most people in this country, timeless in a sense, but part of the backdrop that for most people in this country has always been a part of their lives.
Nicholas Witchell reporting there. Well, speaking at Tweedbank Station a short time ago, the Queen said thank you for the touching messages she had received.
Prince Philip and I are very grateful for the warmth of your welcome on this occasion. Many, including you, First Minister, have also kindly noted another significance attaching to today, although it is not one to which I have ever aspired. Inevitably, a long life can pass by many milestones. My own is no exception. But I thank you all, and the many others at home and overseas, for your touching messages of great kindness.
Well, events have been held across the UK to mark the occasion. On the River Thames, the royal barge Gloriana led a flotilla up the river. Tower Bridge was raised, and HMS Belfast had a 4-gun salute in honour of this historic day. Daniel Bircher reports.
Celebrations on the River Thames in central London, a procession of vessels led by the Gloriana, the Queen's row barge. Built for the Diamond Jubilee when 1,000 boats joined the river pageant, today's flotilla much smaller. As it passed, Tower Bridge was raised as a mark of respect. As the boats passed HMS Belfast, there was a 4-gun salute before the procession moved on to the Houses of Parliament. Inside the Commons, tributes from political leaders and MPs.
The Queen is our Queen, and we could not be more proud of her. She has served this country with unerring grace, dignity and decency, and long may she continue to do so.
There can be no doubt of the commitment that she has made and the public service she has given and continues to give. Even today, at the age of 89, she's undertaking a public engagement.
As well as from politicians and other public figures, there were tributes too from members of the Queen's family.
Yes, it's an extraordinary achievement in some respects, but actually it's about the consistency and the leadership that she is showing and has shown throughout her reign that I think is probably the one thing that marks her up more than anything else.
And now it's Private Speakman.
Among those celebrating today, Bill Speakman, who as a young soldier received a Victoria Cross from the Queen, the first investiture of her reign.
We have such a great respect for the Queen that she is a wonderful and marvellous person, and she rules us, you know, Britain today, and she's doing a bloody good job.
Despite the tributes, there are some who feel that celebrating this milestone in the monarchy is inappropriate.
I don't think that 63 years on the throne is something to celebrate. I think it's actually it's a reminder that we need radical democratic reform in this country.
At Westminster Abbey, bells rang out for just under an hour, the place where the young Elizabeth was married in 1947 and was crowned less than 6 years later. Daniel Bircher, BBC News.
Well, you join us live in the quadrangle of Buckingham Palace, and you can see from the tourists behind us that it is very much a normal business day here with the tourists still coming around the palace. I'm joined now by Sophie Gordon. Now, she's head of photographs at the Royal Collection Trust, and there's a rather special set of photographs here. And there's a moment the whole reign began. This is the coronation.
This is a wonderfully iconic photograph of the Queen on the day of the coronation. Queen looking very young, of course, only 27 years old at this point. Wonderful photograph taken by Cecil Beaton. It's a very theatrical photograph as well. You really get a contrast between the youth of the Queen and the importance of this wonderful state occasion.
This is an exhibition that is going round the country, isn't it?
Well, it's actually on in London at the moment and in Windsor and Edinburgh at the same time.
We have here a picture of the Queen in Canada. It's a country she visited more than any other during this long reign of hers.
Yes, this one shows the Queen presenting colours to a regiment in Quebec City in Canada. And of course it reminds us of the Queen's official duties as head of the armed forces.
And this one, 1966.
Yes, a formal portrait by the photographer Karsh. And then moving on to the next photograph, we've also got an incredibly dramatic image by Cecil Beaton again. Wonderful, very simple image, but of course it was something completely different at the time. It had never been done.
Still rather formal, unlike the next one, and this will make a lot of people smile, taken by Lord Lichfield.
Yes, this is, in contrast, a very relaxed, informal photograph showing the Queen, of course, with her corgis. Lichfield was well known to the Queen, and I think you get that feeling in the photographs that he took.
You do from that one, you certainly do from the next one, and you can explain to us why. In this picture by Patrick Lichfield, she's actually laughing.
Queen is laughing. This was taken on board the Royal Yacht Britannia when they were part of the Far Eastern tour in 1972. And Lichfield is on the yacht when it's crossing the equator. So at this moment, as they cross the line, there's a ceremony, and some unfortunate person, in this instance Lichfield, gets soaped and ducked in the swimming pool on Britannia. Lichfield happened to have with him a waterproof camera at this point, and when he came up out of the water, he could see that the Queen was laughing at him, and he took the photograph at exactly the right moment.
It is a fabulous image. We move on. There are several pictures. We won't show all. State opening of Parliament. This is 1974, an image that we're all familiar with, but again, in black and white, very dramatic.
It is very dramatic, and again it's including a lot of these very formal state occasions. We wanted to include as much as possible of the Queen's duties that she has to undertake.
And as you walk along, we've got a service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's, 1977, which of course was the Silver Jubilee year.
The Silver Jubilee, yes. This is the ceremony that was held at St Paul's Cathedral to mark that particular occasion, and all of the royal family attended at the time. Then next to that, of course, we have something very different. We have one of the famous royal walkabouts when the Queen is going out to meet the public. And you really get a sense of how much the public enjoy trying to get a glimpse of the Queen. There's someone, in fact, trying to take a photograph of her at the same time.
The reaction of people just coming here today has been when they see the Queen smiling, everyone seems to smile with her. This one, she's smiling, sort of.
Well, it's a formal portrait, so you get a sense in the formal portraits, I think, of the Queen that perhaps very little changes over time, and it's more in the informal portraits that we see the personal side of the Queen, and that does, of course, change over time.
During her reign, she's seen many, many leaders. This perhaps one of those who she became very close to, of course, Nelson Mandela.
Yes, this was the occasion when the President Mandela came to London on a state visit. So he's travelling with the Queen in the carriage and being seen by extremely large crowds.
Again, in the crowds, you see smiling and waving. It's a happy day.
Yes.
This is a remarkable photograph.
This is a very strong, dramatic photograph taken of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh to mark the occasion of the Golden Jubilee in 2002. So a very formal, serious portrait, but very beautifully lit as well.
And finally, we've got one, again, one smiles with her. She's obviously at ease, obviously happy because she's with her horses. Ponies,
yes,
I should say.
Yes, this is a lovely photograph of the Queen, and one that's very little known. It's taken by a photographer well known to the Queen, and I think you get a sense of that in the photograph. The Queen is obviously very happy, relaxed, smiling. She's with her horses, and of course she loves her horses, so we really get a sense of the Queen as an individual in this image.
Who decided which pictures you were going to use?
Well, that was me. I had to choose, and it was something that was quite hard to do. And of course, we're dealing with someone who is probably the most photographed woman in the world. We had
Did you have to clear them with her?
The Queen is aware of what's in the exhibition and has approved it. Yes.
And as we said, this goes to Windsor Castle and to Holyrood later this month, and indeed next month as well.
Yes, the exhibition will be on at Windsor and at Edinburgh until January.
Sophie, thank you very much for that. It's not often you can say live from the quadrangle of Buckingham Palace, but we are indeed. Tourists, I'm getting in the way now, so I better hand back to you in the studio.
And that so rarely happens as well. Simon, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Simon McCoy there, as he said, in the quadrangle of Buckingham Palace. Now to the other news of the day. The pilot of a British Airways plane bound for London has been praised for his quick response. This after an engine caught fire just before takeoff from Las Vegas. The aircraft was engulfed in flames and passengers and crew had to use emergency slides to escape. About a dozen of the 170 people on board needed medical treatment. Our correspondent John Brain reports.
Speedbird, Mayday, Speedbird 2276, request flight services.
British Airways flight number 2276 in flames on the runway at Las Vegas Airport.
Speedbird 2276 Heavy, we are evacuating on the runway. We have a fire, I repeat, we are evacuating.
Speedbird 2276 Heavy, roger.
The plane had been gathering speed for takeoff when it suddenly came to a shuddering halt. The 157 passengers on board quickly realised they were in danger.
People were terrified. There was a guy sitting on the left side of the plane next to the wing, and he's seen the flames, and his window had started melting as well. So they were obviously just trying to get away from that side of the plane. At the same time, the crew's trying to get everyone to remain in their seats, obviously, to stop the mass panic.
I was one of the first people off the plane, and so jumped down the slide, and I looked up, and the flames seemed to be about twice the height of the aircraft.
Everybody that got off before me, as soon as they hit the tarmac, they just sprinted because behind us are giant flames.
And passengers that were saying, there's a fire, and as soon as the crew heard passengers saying there was a fire, there was no hesitation from them whatsoever. The exit doors were open, they were literally in full swing. It was like clockwork for them.
More than a dozen people were hurt during the evacuation, most of them while sliding down the emergency chutes. However, none of the injuries are serious. With the passengers temporarily stranded in Las Vegas, BA is arranging alternative flights to London. It's understood the fire broke out in one of the aircraft's engines. An investigation will try to establish what caused it. For now, there's just relief that it happened while the plane was still on the ground, rather than
as he gave details of a new compulsory relocation scheme. But the Czech and Slovak leaders say they don't want to take part, while Spain has declared it will now take an EU allocation. Our Europe correspondent Chris Morris sent this report.
And still they come. Another flood tide of people leaving the Greek islands and heading further north. No sign of complacency in Strasbourg, where Jean-Claude Juncker was giving his first State of the Union speech. We're not in a good place, he admitted. There's a lack of Europe and a lack of union.
I do not want, Mr. President, to create any illusions that the refugee crisis will be over any time soon. It will not, and we have to know that.
Hi, my name is Kay and welcome to Expert Workshop Beginner Series. Hi, my name is Kay and welcome to Expert Workshop Beginner Series. Hey everyone and welcome to the beginner's tutorial of the latest Expert broadcast. You can read this blog here. Now let's go over the sources we can add to the viewport or your stage. All of the following sources are found in the Add Sources menu, which you can access here and here. First, we'll discuss the game capture source. If you currently have a PC game active, it will be listed in the game source menu, and clicking on it will add a game to the viewport. Take note that any game that runs below DirectX 9 will not be Java. You will need the RTSP address. Media files are on or a specific region. And also add effects like chroma key. The Layout tab lets you adjust the size and the positioning of your source.
Иргээс санааж харин газраас яран ирэгнэ.
Ярохондоо айл бүсгүй мэ.
Явуулын хүндүү сатаж ялгаа үгийлээ жаргана.
Янзаа эрхлүүлэн шаргачин амарна.
Яргун дэлбэг зөөлөн мөнрэлнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ.
Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ.
Яруухан дуаял бүсгүй мэн. Яруухан дуаял бүсгүй мэн. Яруухан дуаял бүсгүй мэн. Яруухан дуаял бүсгүй мэн. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ.
Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ. Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ.
Хүчтэй дуаял хонгорнэ.
Итгэлд сайхан хань минь дэргээд тань хараад удаж явна бин. Ивэж хайрлах ээж минь байгаач танийгаал үгэлээд байх ёо.
Алтан наран ээж илчгүй мэд санагдаа. 15-ны саран гилэж гэрэлгүй имэр бодогдоо. Алтан наран ээж илчгүй мэд санагдаа. 15-ны саран гилэж гэрэлгүй имэр бодогдоо. Ичимэн өргсөн цайсууны дэж данд минь хүрээ юм болов. Тэртэй хоолон оддын дунд зүдэндээ таныг би үзлээ. Таран дөрөв хажуурсан шаргалтар чин үгүйлээ. Дэрсгэн өссөн хонгорнасаа оддын тэндээс авлуу. Диндугийн мэр хадуухаа сэтгэлийг тань бодхоо. Тэгвэл минь монгрох бүрэл нэмлэж тусаж явъя танийгаа.
Ээжи минь өргсөн цайсууны дээж тэнд минь хүрсэн юм болов. Тэрдэг олон оддын дунд зүйтэндээ таныг би үзлээ. Алтан наран хэлээч илчгүй мэд санагдана. Дэндүү гэмээр халуухан сэтгэл чинь надад өгсөн. Хүнийг хайрлах сэтгэлийг тань дээдлэн эрхэмлэж явъя. Бусдын төлөө бие мартахыг босон сум бодож амьдрий би.
Дэндүүгийн мэр халуухаа сэтгэл чинь надад үлсэн. Эндүү бодоогүй чи хүслийг итгэл чинь бас үлсэн. Хүчин тэнгэрт одоцдугээд үзэсгэлэн чимээ нэрээ намуухан байхлыг цэцэгсэн донд чамайг үгийлэн харуулдаг зуна чимээ надад ирэж чимээ надад Тэнгэрийн мандал саран нургаад Борчлон гэрлээ түгээхэд Тэр дэдэн эвчах Хондын туяа Танхилхан чамайг мэн санагдуулнаа
Чамаас би сүүлчийн удаа хайргуйлаа. Төвгүйхэн чи надад үгүй гэж хэлсэн. Төвөдрөн хэлсэн хайрын минь үгийг төгсгөл болгон шархтуулж орхисон уу? Чи санаж байна уу? Чамд би одоо хайргүй ч гэсэн эргэж харахгүй байж үнэхээр чадахгүй. Хайрт минь хамгийн сүүлчийн цөхрөлийн минь хүртэл чиний үлмэд унах шиг болсон. Би хүлээнэ чи минь надтай эргээд ирээч. Үрийгээ туяраад бай үзэгсэн чи минь ирээч үзэмжит байгалыг сэрхийг үзээд үнэхээр чамтайгаа уулзах шиг болоо үр цайтал би хүлээнэ үр цайтал би хүлээнэ үр цайтал би Хүчин тэнгэрт одоцдугээд үзэсгэлэн чимээ нэрээ намуухан байхлыг цэцэгсэн донд чамайг үгийлэн харуулдаг зуна Тэнгэрийн мандал саран нургаад Борчлон гэрлээ түгээхэд Тэр дэдэн эвчах Хондын туяа Танхилхан чамайг мэн санагдуулнаа хэлсэн хайрын минь үгийг төгсгөл болгон шархтуулж орхисон чи санаж байна уу? Чамд би одоо хайргүй ч гэсэн эргэж харахгүй байж үнэхээр чадахгүй. Хайрт минь хамгийн сүүлчийн цөхрлийн минь хүртэл чиний үлмэд унах шиг болсон. Би хүлээнэ чи минь надтай эргээд ирээч. Заримдаа бүх юм бүтэхгүй болохгүй юм санагддаг. Энэ өдөр шалхуулаа эргээд наран гарахад мартагнаа. Бараараа онгоц ямсангүй юу? Болцондоо харчин ирсэнгүй юу? Очтигив чатмаргүй байна уу? This is Remix Camerton.
Come on, yo. 무대를 보여주고 say, yo.